Well, Christopher, thank you very much for all that. Our next speaker is going to have her work cut out because she's speaking in favour of the motion that the Catholic Church is a force for good. The Conservative MP and former government minister, Anne Widdecombe, she's as well known for her religious views as for her politics. If you recall, she left the Church of England in 1992 in a blaze of publicity when it allowed the ordination of women priests. The following year, she converted to Catholicism and has become one of the most vocal and staunchest defenders of the Catholic Church since then. Anne Widdecombe, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. If apologies are due tonight, they are due from Christopher Hitchens, who has just run through one of the longest series of misrepresentations of the Catholic Church that I have heard in a long time. It really is, I think, quite telling that in coping with a motion which says the Catholic Church is a force for good in the world, he has to go back to the Crusades in order to try and disprove it. Or, if that's slightly too far back, the sack of Constantinople. He can't actually look at the force that the Catholic Church is in the world today, but I do nevertheless want to join him on his ground, though not sharing any of his conclusions, and just look at some of the things which he has stated. He has said, and actually, you know, no pope pronouncing ex cathedra could ever sound more convinced of truth than when Christopher Hitchens utters something incredibly questionable. But he has said, with that certainty which characterises his utterances, that the Catholic Church has had a history of anti-Semitism. Let us just look at the record of the Catholic Church. When the Jewish community was under the most serious threat that it has faced in recent centuries, and just look at the role that the Catholic Church played in the last World War. Mr. Hitchens ignores the thousands of Jews who were secreted and rescued in churches and monasteries throughout Europe, at tremendous risk to the priests and the monks and the nuns who were hiding them. He ignores the 3,000 Jews who, in the course of that conflict, took refuge in the Pope's own summer palace. He contradicts flatly the statement of so many prominent Jews after 1945, who expressed gratitude to Pius XII, even to the extent of sending the Israeli Philharmonic Orchestra to stage a concert in the Pope's honour. Not, I think, something that they would have done if they had thought he had been anti-Semitic, but rather they recognised that the Catholic Church throughout that period acted within the limitations of the time as a force for good. Martin Gilbert and Michael Burley, historians of very considerable repute, point to the large number of Catholics who found themselves in Dachau. And of course we should remember that any Christian, not just Catholic, but any Christian joining the SS had first to renounce his faith. So I do not think that a charge of anti-Semitism can stand up. Yes, it is quite true that the New Testament says that the first century Sanhedrin made a very major contribution to the death of Christ. So also did the Romans. And indeed it's Pontius Pilate that we remember in the Creed every Sunday, not the Sanhedrin. Yet I do not recall Mr. Hitchens suggesting that because of that, the modern Catholic Church is anti-Italian. I rather thought it was quite pro-Italian. He also suggests that the Pope welcomed back a Holocaust-denying bishop. Let us first remember that the bishop in question was originally expelled for disobedience. Upon being reinstated and upon reiterating his views, the Pope, a fact conveniently ignored by Mr. Hitchens, commanded him to repent, commanded him to deny what he had said. You would think from listening to Mr. Hitchens that the Catholic Church alone has been responsible for atrocities throughout history. If you are going to judge the Catholic Church at any given stage in history, then you have to judge it against the standards that were prevailing at the time, and condemning the Inquisition, which was a horrible thing, condemning the Inquisition in isolation from condemning just about the whole, in fact the whole, of European society, which at that time rejoiced in punishment and torture as a means of dealing with criminality and with treason and with wrongdoing. To try and divorce the Catholic Church from that and say that it was uniquely guilty under the Inquisition is simply trying to look back at centuries gone past and apply a standard that nobody applied at the time.